A man stopped going to the woods after a creepy encounter with a cryptid. After 30 long years, an American Tennessee man has finally revealed the reason for his sudden decision to stop walking in the woods. The man, who has chosen to remain anonymous, has been hiding this secret for decades. But recent events have prompted him to reveal the creepy experience that led him to avoid the Tennessee wilderness. The story he tells is one of fear, survival, and an encounter with the unknown that changed him forever. Tennessee's woods used to be a refuge for this man, a place where he could get away from the hustle and bustle of city life and connect with nature. He enjoyed every free minute here, fishing, hunting with his 2 faithful German shepherds. One day, he went into the woods light and walked only a couple of miles to Smoky. There he camped and spent a beautiful day exploring the area with his faithful canine companions. At one point, the dogs fussed over some debris, but the man thought it was from a bear and didn't pay much attention to it. When evening came, the man got ready to make a fire to keep warm. However, he noticed that his dogs seemed unusually agitated, barking and growling at something in the distance. Even though they had always managed to keep the bears away before, the man could not help but feel uneasy. But he had his trusty rifle by his side, and he was sure he could handle anything that came their way. As night fell, the warm summer air enveloped the camp, prompting the man to leave his tent open. He settled in for the night with his faithful pets snuggled up against him. In the middle of the night, he awoke to the bright moonlight illuminating the camp. The man heard the dogs make a deep, low growl as they stared at something. Their fur rose up in smoke. Then he noticed another noise, like a humming moan, coming from outside the tent. The source of the moaning noise became obvious as the man's eyes adjusted to the darkness. Now he could make out the dark outlines that resembled a bear lurking behind the cold embers of the fire. The man began to shout at the dark, looming figure behind the tent. To his surprise, the creature fell silent, but then began to increase in size until it towered over the mesh window in the tent roof. The man could hardly believe what he was seeing. He had never encountered anything so huge. Meanwhile, his 2 dogs continued to growl, their instincts clearly telling them that this creature could not be trusted. He heard the creature take a deep and long breath and let out a trumpeting cry. It resembled a mixture of a lion's roar and a human scream. The dogs fell silent in terror, and the creature ran away. The man, terrified, could not stop his dogs from chasing the creature as they ignored his commands. Coming to his senses, he grabbed his rifle and headlamp and ran after them. He could hear them barking in the distance, but they were moving too fast. Then he heard something that sent shivers down his spine. A maniacal laughter, like the cry of a hyena, coming from the direction of the dog. Despite his growing sense of dread, the man continued to follow the sounds of barking and laughter, hoping that he would find his dogs alive. But as the night drew to a close and the barking subsided, he realized that he had to return to camp to avoid getting lost. He could sleep no more, waiting for the dogs to return to camp, calling for them from time to time, but to no avail. As soon as the sun rose, he set out again in search of his beloved pets. After hours of searching, he finally stumbled upon them. One dog was badly wounded and whimpering in a thicket of bushes. The other was torn to pieces. The loss of his dog hit him hard, and the surviving dog was never the same again, becoming afraid of both the night and the woods. The man knows that that night in the woods, he encountered something truly terrifying. Something that was far worse than any bear or other known predator. To this day, he has never been able to fully explain what he saw and heard that fateful night. But he is certain that it was his encounter with the unknown creature that made him give up walking among the wilds of Tennessee forever. Cryptids are animals whose existence is not recognized by modern science. They include creatures that, for example, are mentioned in legends, dragons, griffins, etc., which have come down to us from ancient times, or they are creatures thought to be long extinct. Sometimes, cryptids are understood to be plants, but in this case, the question of their existence is resolved much faster, since plants are not as mobile as animals. the most amazing and valuable finds in the mines. Merrillin's Museum of Mysterious Creatures. The creatures and artifacts of this museum have been thought to be nothing more than myth. It is a mystery that challenges our understanding of biology, chemistry, and the very laws of physics. Perhaps it is not a fairy tale because Merrillin was a scientist, and empirical data and rational thought reigned supreme here. In 2006, a trust was created to analyze and sort through the huge number of wooden crates found sealed in the basement of a London townhouse that was to be demolished. Seemingly untouched since the 1940s, the crates contained more than 5,000 specimens of flora and fauna. Homunculus, or gnome, a miniature species of hominid found in the wilds of the Arctic Circle. They are the most miniaturized relative of humans, collected, dissected, and preserved by many forgotten scientists, professors, and researchers of unknown cultures and species. The collection also contained many artifacts of curious origin, fragments of civilizations that once ruled the Earth, ideas, and belief systems. Carnivorous Erebus, char elf. Despite its brilliant white skin color, in photographs because of the effect of infrared, these animals were black as coal. It is almost impossible to see them with the naked eye. But the most curious thing about this discovery was the people responsible for the existence of this collection. Mysterious gentlemen who collected many relics, challenging our understanding of nature and its species, which the modern world has never seen, as well as objects that defy all physical laws. Professor Thomas Theodore Merrillin. Lord and Professor Thomas Theodore Merrillin was born in 1782 into a wealthy aristocratic family. His mother died in childbirth, and he was raised by his father Edward. His father was a general in the army, but after his retirement he became interested in esoteric natural history, successfully investing money in lucrative companies to fund his quest around the planet. Draco alatus was one of a small subgroup of theropoda that carried a unique self-inflamed glandular secretion. It had 4 glands containing an enzyme in its throat. When sprayed from the mouth, the enzyme reacted with oxygen and ignited, searching for ghostly artifacts and hidden species, which lived on forgotten continents or in dark places, far from prying human eyes. They traveled together for many years until his father died. This event turned Thomas into a recluse, seeking solace in his work and befriending very few. He taught at the large Merrillin House Library. He also went to University College London on Gower Street. An adult female werewolf, lycanthropy, human wolf, remarkably well preserved, shortly after her death. The body shows signs of an autopsy. Merrillin's strange quality was his seemingly eternal youth. Even in his 80s, he still resembled a 40-year-old, albeit with a strange complexion. He was accused of practicing dark magic to prolong his life. Nevertheless, prominent scientists secretly teamed up with him, encouraging him to share his collection with the world. In 1899, he took a small portion of his specimens on a tour of America. The conservative views of the time condemned these creatures, calling them blasphemous. His reaction was harsh, and the tour was canceled before it even reached California. Head Nosferatu, Homo vampirus, a nocturnal species of hominid, possesses a long lifespan, but is totally dependent on consumption of large amounts of glandular and protein in the blood to aid in the metabolism of viral cells. In the time that followed, he added many specimens to his collection, as he traveled to all corners of the earth and studied ideologies and sciences that amazed those who corresponded with him. He had a legion of colleagues in his ranks who all benefited from his endless pursuits. Truth be told, until recently, we didn't know what he was really looking for. Merrillin talked about the possibilities of the multiverse, time travel, quantum mechanics, even before these terms appeared in modern science. Homomimus dentata, tooth fairy, live often in trees or any large space. The nests themselves are built with secretions from their saliva mixed with fallen leaves to form a substance as hard as cement. They are carnivores. He fell into obscurity until 1942. Soon after, in the spring of that year, a man appeared at Tunbridge boarding school for boys. Allegedly, it was Thomas Theodore Merrillin. He wanted to give the orphanage a large house in London for them to use after the war was over. But there was only one condition: that the basement of the house never be opened and the house never be sold. The orphanage kept that promise until it was disbanded in the 1960s, and the cellar's existence was forgotten. Walled up behind 2 brick walls, the door was accidentally found when the foundations of the house were inspected before demolition. This tiny, unique skeleton was found in a grave on the Osborne Peninsula in 1891. It was kept in a clay coffin, surrounded by various trinkets and bones. The words Yab Nose Laka Natok, which translates to child with wood on his head, are carved on the coffin. Thomas Merrillin, pictured in the local paper, was handing over the papers to the new owner. Judging by his appearance, Thomas was still in his 40s. By this time, he would have been over 160 years old. The name aroused the interest of those who followed Merrillin's work. Most assumed he was long dead, but the man who called himself Thomas quickly disappeared, leaving no evidence of his existence. The Merrillin estate was also sold and the money went to charity. What he left behind was the most incredible collection ever known to mankind. Real specimens of taxidermy dragons, childish forms of werewolves, artifacts of ancient vampire peoples, and the paraphernalia of nefarious scientists whose existence was considered mere fiction. What had allowed Merrillin to live so long? Where did these specimens come from, given that there are no other specimens of these species on Earth? This is what so worries us and frightens us at the same time. Like it, subscribe to our channel, comment. Many more interesting top films are waiting for you. Enjoy watching.